Do this.
And I'm gonna be racing with my girlfriend.
Was having an affair, which is why Charlie Cook took her out of the will. So allegedly, the story is that Erika Kirk was having an affair. Charlie hired a private investigator to kind of follow her.
Of her Shabbat Shalom PR blitz, she conducted her very first interview from Charlie's home office. And yet, curiously, that wedding photo is missing.
For the past several months, Erika Kirk has shown the public a very clear picture of who she is. She has presented herself as a grieving widow, a faithful Christian wife, and the careful guardian of Charlie's legacy. She has given many interviews, started a revival-style tour, stepped into the CEO role, and carried herself with steady confidence. Some people have respected that strength. Others have struggled to match that confident public image with the deep loss she describes. This is not about judging how someone grieves. Grief looks different for everyone. The issue people are raising is about whether the public story fully matches the documented record. The questions are not coming only from online critics. They are coming from old photos, public posts, and former insiders who say they were fired after asking questions. When pictures and timelines don't seem to line up with what was said publicly, people start to look more closely. One of the first big questions involves Erika's dating history before she met Charlie. She publicly said she had not dated anyone for 5 years before meeting him. That is a very specific claim. However, publicly available photos and posts show that during that same 5-year period, she appeared to be in relationships with several men, including Cabot Phillips, JT Massey, Joe Lum, and Josh Harrelson. These posts are not hidden or leaked. They are visible on social media. When someone makes a clear statement like, "I did not date anyone for 5 years," and public posts appear to show otherwise, people notice. It becomes less about opinion and more about whether the timeline matches the evidence. And once one part of a story seems unclear, people naturally begin to wonder what else might not fully match. The timeline around Cabot Phillips raises even more questions. In late 2017, Cabot publicly posted about dating Erika. There is a photo with a caption that clearly shows they were together. Around that same time, there are also photos of Cabot spending time with Charlie in personal settings, like playing basketball together. That means Cabot was publicly dating Erika while also spending time with Charlie during that same period. In 2018, Erika interviewed for a job at Turning Point USA and later described it as if she did not have a prior connection to Charlie's world. Critics say that is hard to understand if the man she was dating had already been spending time personally with Charlie. The social media posts are still there. The dates are visible. That is why people continue to question how those events fit together. Candace Owens has also spoken publicly about concerns related to Charlie's final days. She claimed that in the days before his death, Charlie had stopped wearing his wedding ring and was sleeping in a separate room. These claims have not been independently confirmed and should be understood as allegations. However, in Erika's own interview, she mentioned that on the morning of the incident, Charlie snuck in to get his wedding band. That detail stood out to many people. Some asked why he needed to retrieve his ring at all. Candace's interpretation is her own opinion. But the detail about the ring came from Erika herself, and that is why people continue to discuss it. When parts of someone's own story raise new questions, those questions tend to stick. There are also allegations from former Turning Point staff members. These sources are unnamed, which means their claims cannot be verified right now. They allege that Erika had relationships with men inside the organization during her marriage, that she mocked Charlie privately, and that staff members who questioned leadership decisions were pushed out. These are serious claims, but they remain unproven. Still, when multiple former employees describe similar experiences, some people feel that pattern is important. Supporters argue these are unhappy former staff members. Critics argue that the number of similar stories make them harder to ignore. Another decision that raised eyebrows happened shortly after Charlie's death. Erika chose Cabot Phillips to step in and speak on Turning Point's college tours. That choice drew attention because Cabot is connected to the Daily Wire, an outlet that had a public dispute with Charlie. That professional conflict was already known. So when someone from that organization was selected to step into Charlie's role just days after his death, people questioned the reasoning. Supporters say it was simply about qualifications and availability. Critics say the context made it look complicated. On top of the personal and timeline questions, there are also reported financial concerns involving Turning Point USA. There have been reports of IRS scrutiny, missing filings, and questions about related companies. These reports add pressure to the situation. Anonymous insiders claim Erika was already taking on executive control before Charlie died. That claim is not documented proof, but the speed with which she became CEO has made some people wonder how much authority she already had. It is important to separate what is documented from what is alleged. Documented. Erika publicly stated she did not date anyone for 5 years before Charlie, and public social media posts appear to contradict that claim. Documented. Cabot Phillips publicly posted about dating Erika in 2017, and photos from that same time show him spending personal time with Charlie. Documented. Erika chose Cabot, who was connected to an outlet that had a public conflict with Charlie, to replace him on tours shortly after his death. Documented. Candace Owens has made specific public claims about Charlie's final days, and the wedding ring detail comes from Erika her own interview. Alleged but not confirmed, affairs during the marriage, internal power struggles before Charlie's death, and private mocking comments. These claims come from unnamed sources and have not been independently verified. So the central question many people are asking is simple. Does the timeline fully make sense, or does the documented record tell a more complicated story than the public image suggests? Some believe everything can be explained. Others believe there are too many loose ends. Right now, the public can see certain facts and certain allegations, but not the full picture. That is why the discussion continues. For months, Erika Kirk has stood in front of cameras with steady composure and a clear message. She has presented herself as a grieving widow, a woman of deep faith, and the protector of Charlie's legacy. She has given interview after interview, stepped confidently into leadership, and spoken about loss with calm strength. To some, that strength looks admirable. To others, it feels difficult to reconcile with the tragedy she describes. But the growing questions surrounding her are not just about tone or emotion. They are about timelines, statements, and documented evidence that some critics say do not fully align with the public story. This conversation is not about attacking grief. Grief is personal. It shows up differently for every person. Some people cry openly. Some focus on work. Some appear composed while privately struggling. The issue people are raising is not about how Erika mourns. It is about whether certain factual claims she made publicly match what can be seen in publicly available records. When someone makes a clear statement about their past, and that statement appears to conflict with visible evidence, people naturally begin to ask questions. One of the earliest and most specific claims Erika made was that she had not dated anyone for 5 years before meeting Charlie. She described that period as intentional singleness. That is a very direct statement. However, social media posts and photos from that time period appear to show her in relationships with several men. These are not anonymous leaks or secret documents. They are posts that were publicly shared. They include photos, captions, and timelines that can still be viewed. When a specific claim like, "I did not date anyone for 5 years," appears to conflict with visible posts from that same window of time, it creates a credibility gap. Even if there is an explanation, the contradiction itself invites scrutiny. The situation becomes more complex when looking at the timeline involving Cabot Phillips. In late 2017, he publicly acknowledged dating Erika. Around that same period, photos show him spending time with Charlie in personal settings. That overlap has raised eyebrows. If Erika was dating someone who was simultaneously spending time with Charlie, critics question how later descriptions of first connections and introductions fit into that timeline. People have pointed out that social media timestamps are hard to dismiss. The dates remain visible, and the sequence of events appears close enough to invite doubt. Then there is the detail that reignited public debate: the wedding ring. Candace Owens publicly claimed that Charlie had stopped wearing his ring before his death and was sleeping separately from Erika. These claims have not been independently verified. They remain allegations. However, in Erika's own interview, she mentioned that on the morning of the incident, Charlie snuck in to retrieve his wedding band. That detail caught attention. Critics wondered why he needed to retrieve it at all. Supporters say small details can be misinterpreted. Still, once such a detail is introduced into the public narrative, it becomes part of the larger conversation. The questions did not stop there. Shortly after Charlie's death, Erika chose Cabot Phillips to step into Charlie's role for college tours. That choice drew attention not just because of past personal connections, but also because of professional context. Cabot is associated with the Daily Wire, an outlet that had been publicly at odds with Charlie. That professional conflict was known. So when someone from that organization was selected to fill Charlie's position so soon after his death, critics saw symbolism in the choice. Supporters say it was simply a practical decision based on availability and experience. At the same time, anonymous former staff members began speaking publicly. They claim that Erika had been expanding her leadership influence within the organization before Charlie's death. They allege internal tensions and dismissive behavior behind closed doors. These claims remain unverified and come from unnamed sources. That matters. Anonymous allegations are not proven facts. However, when multiple former employees describe similar concerns, the pattern itself becomes part of the public conversation. Financial reports and scrutiny surrounding the organization have added another layer. Reports of IRS attention, missing filings, and questions about related companies have compounded the leadership debate. Even if those issues are administrative or procedural, their timing has intensified public focus.
When leadership transitions happen quickly during periods of financial review, observers often examine the sequence more closely. The core issue is not a single accusation. It is the accumulation of inconsistencies, allegations, and decisions that, when placed side by side, create a picture some people find difficult to reconcile. Documented posts contradict a dating claim. A timeline appears compressed in ways that raise questions. A detail about a wedding ring fuels speculation. A staffing choice invites professional scrutiny. Anonymous insiders describe internal tensions. Financial reviews add pressure. None of these elements alone prove wrongdoing, but together they have fueled ongoing public debate. The central question remains simple. Does the timeline fully hold up, or does the documented record tell a more complicated story than the public image suggests? Some believe everything can be explained. Others believe there are too many loose ends. Right now, the public can see certain facts and certain allegations, but not the full picture. That is why the discussion continues. For months, Erika Kirk has stood in front of cameras with steady composure and a clear message. She has presented herself as a grieving widow, a woman of deep faith and the protector of Charlie's legacy. She has given interview after interview, stepped confidently into leadership, and spoken about loss with calm strength. To some, that strength looks admirable. To others, it feels difficult to reconcile with the tragedy she describes. But the growing questions surrounding her are not just about tone or emotion. They are about timelines, statements, and documented evidence that some critics say do not fully align with the public story. This conversation is not about attacking grief.
That social circles often overlap and that shared events do not necessarily imply deeper coordination. Still, the visible proximity of dates and photos leaves room for skepticism. The wedding ring detail remains one of the most emotionally charged aspects of the discussion. Candace Owens framed her claims as raising questions rather than presenting confirmed facts. Her statements about separate sleeping arrangements and the absence of the ring were controversial. However, because Erika herself mentioned Charlie retrieving his ring that morning, critics argue that the detail invites scrutiny. Supporters respond that moments of stress can disrupt routine, and that a misplaced ring does not automatically signal marital trouble. The debate illustrates how small narrative elements can take on large symbolic meaning once public attention intensifies. Leadership decisions following Charlie's death further fueled scrutiny. The rapid elevation of Erika to CEO created both praise and suspicion. Some saw it as a natural succession during crisis. Others questioned how quickly authority consolidated. When anonymous former staff members claimed she had already been exercising executive control beforehand, that narrative gained traction. Again, these are allegations without documented proof, yet the speed of transition made the claims feel plausible to critics. Financial concerns surrounding the organization have also played a role. Reports of IRS review and filing irregularities have not resulted in public findings of wrongdoing. However, the mere presence of regulatory attention increases pressure. In times of financial examination, leadership transparency becomes especially important. Critics argue that open communication could ease concerns. Supporters maintain that regulatory reviews are common for large organizations and do not imply misconduct. The personnel decision to bring in Cabot Phillips remains controversial primarily because of optics. The Daily Wire's public dispute with Charlie created a visible line of tension. Choosing someone connected to that outlet so soon after Charlie's passing struck some observers as symbolic. Even if the choice was practical, optics matter in leadership. Supporters say experience outweighed perception. Critics argue perception cannot be ignored. When looking at all these elements together, the controversy is less about any single accusation and more about consistency. Public narratives rely heavily on trust. When timelines appear compressed, when statements conflict with visible records, and when leadership shifts occur rapidly, public trust can weaken. That does not mean guilt, it means questions remain. At this point, the documented facts are limited but clear in certain areas. Public dating claims conflict with visible posts. Cabot Phillips publicly dated Erika in 2017. He also appears in photos with Charlie during that same timeframe. Erika selected him for a major speaking role shortly after Charlie's death, and Candace Owens publicly questioned details of Charlie's final days. Everything beyond those points moves into interpretation or allegation. Affairs, internal mockery, and power maneuvering remain unverified claims. Financial scrutiny remains ongoing without public findings of wrongdoing. The public debate continues because the story feels unfinished. Some believe there are reasonable explanations for every discrepancy. Others believe the pattern suggests deeper inconsistencies. In situations like this, perception often shapes narrative as much as documented evidence does.